a magnet for young and old. Car shows have always been a hit with visitors, and that's definitely true of the LA Auto Show. Everywhere he goes, our car expert Matis Kurat hears that the BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, are the hottest destination for new cars. But he thinks the U.S. and especially California haven't lost their shine. Look around. The Los Angeles Auto Show, he says. Why else would all the big-name producers from around the world make the trip here? German auto giant Volkswagen brought along a real highlight to this year's show. The new Beetle convertible. They could hardly have picked a better place to debut their new convertible than the state synonymous with sunshine and good weather. But their new convertible has some big shoes to fill. Head designer Klaus Bischoff was one of the people tasked with reinterpreting a successful design. And even he admits it wasn't easy, but he's happy with the results. The design team was hoping to create a sportier and more masculine edition of the Beetle convertible, and he believes they've achieved that. And the Beetle convertible has never looked better. It's wider, longer, and sleeker than its predecessor. Matis is looking forward to see the latest from Porsche. They've been on the U.S. market for 60 years, but have got something new in store for this year's visitors. Taking center stage at the German sports car producer's stand is the third generation of Porsche's Cayman line. And where better to celebrate a world premiere than L.A.? Porsche representative Bernd Meyer took time to tell us about the latest improvements to the Cayman. The new Cayman is lighter and wider than previous models, which makes it a more dynamic ride. He says they also expanded the wheelbase to make cornering more stable. And the mid-engine sports car also stands out thanks to its glossy finish and use of high-end materials. But what would an American car show be without pickup trucks? Matis is well acquainted with the bigger is better thinking on the American market. Many of these trucks sport 5-liter engines, or in the case of this Chevrolet Silverado, a 6.6-liter model. But in LA, car manufacturers want to show that they can do more than just make gas guzzlers. Energy efficiency and alternative fuel source are the latest craze in LA. The real crowd pleasers are the sports cars. Despite LA's notoriously bad traffic jams, AMG's Ola Kalenius gave us a tour of the new Mercedes SLS AMG Black Series. He says Mercedes has been successful with their GT3 Motorsports program, and the Black Series is their fusion of high-performance motorsports and high-end consumer elegance. 0 to 100 in 3.6 seconds at a top speed of 315 kilometers per hour. For Matis, the SLS AMG Black Series is all about raw driving fun. But for all those who want a more sensible driving experience, there's the Smart 4.2 electric drive. And there's even a version that's easy on the eyes, the Smart for Jeremy. The two-seater is decked out entirely in chrome and even has designer Jeremy Scott's trademark wings. And in keeping with the times, this special edition Smart also sports an electric motor. BMW is also following this trend. Their i8 and i3 concept cars feature electric power plants with a range of 160 kilometers. Say hello to Opel Atom, named in tribute to the company's founder, Adam Opel. It's a real piece of designer motoring. From bumper to bumper, inside and out, this funky new city car just looks and feels right. Opel hopes it will set a new trend in automotive design. Opel Stefan Arndt says the company wanted a car that took its attractive design philosophy into the lifestyle segment. The Insignia and the Meriva were already out when we began working on it, he says, but Opel wanted a presence in the fashion-oriented small car segment. It didn't have the sort of car that sets talented manufacturers apart and that sells well in big cities. Opel wanted a piece of that pie. The Aguila has long been the baby of the Opel range, but the Atom is a full 4 centimeters smaller. The colors of the roof and body can be mixed and matched, so owners can give their Atom that personal touch. The car is supposed to be colorful, but not a retro throwback. It's an all-German effort, having been designed and built in Germany. Stefan Arndt from Opel says the important thing about a city car is that it has to be short. That's why Opel said right from the start that the Atom should be 3.7 meters in length and not a millimeter longer. But it wasn't easy, he says. European regulations are getting stricter, so the design department had a tough job keeping the car fresh and attractive, but also short and in proportion. The Atom range comes with a choice of 3 gas-powered engines. We're driving the most spirited of the 3, the EcoFlex version with 74 kilowatts under the hood. It consumes 5.1 liters of gas over 100 kilometers. Our tester, Chris, is 20 years old, precisely the age group Opel hopes the Atom will appeal to. Chris says the Atom is most suited to city traffic and is at its best when it's in and around town. The Atom is maneuverable, agile, and suits any driving style. That's thanks to a nifty power steering system that can be set to city mode at the flick of a switch. Adding to its street credentials is a park assist system that makes parking a breeze. Also included is a blind spot detection system. Opel Stefan Arndt says it was important that the Atom could be personalized on the inside and outside. He says Opel didn't invent this market segment, so as a latecomer, it wanted to do something better than the rest. The customers Opel asked wanted to be able to personalize the car. He says the customers didn't want different levels of trim so people could be categorized. They've seen that before and wanted a car that appeals to them individually and could be customized. Even if their creations are ugly, they're all for it because it would be unique. So Opel listened closely and tried to make a car with as many different variants as possible. Like a starlight roof trim that features dozens of tiny twinkling LEDs. Or a checkered flag trim motif for a sporty look. Color is key to the design of the dash and the whole cabin for that matter. So how does the funky design go down with our tester? Chris's first impression was, it's fantastic. From the outside, the Atom looks quite small, he says, but once inside, it's surprisingly roomy. He's also a fan of the modern design and thinks it will appeal mostly to young people who want to modify their cars. The asking price is also bound to appeal to young motorists. The Atom will hit showrooms in early 2013 and can be yours for a starting price of 11,500 euros in Germany. Audi has unveiled its latest incarnation of the A3 Sportback. Thanks to its ultra-lightweight design, it weighs nearly 90 kilograms less than its predecessor. The 1.6-liter TDI unit is the most efficient in the range. With manual transmission, the Sportback consumes just 3.8 liters over 100 kilometers. It powers from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 10.9 seconds and tops out at 194 kilometers an hour. Citroën is expanding its DS4 range. The French car maker has partnered the DS4's powerful HDI 165 engine with a 6-speed automatic gearbox. In its new guise, the 120-kilowatt diesel consumes 5.7 liters of fuel per 100 kilometers. The automatic version also comes with an electronic parking brake as standard. Prices start from around 28,000 euros. The Captiva is Chevrolet's compact SUV. It first hit the market back in 2006 and then got a substantial facelift in 2011. Compact SUVs have always been popular with families as an alternative to the classic MPV. Our tester Reinhold Deisenhofer feels at home in the new cabin. It's got a more quality feel than its predecessor, he says. The instruments are easy to read and the switch is well laid out. He says you can just get in and drive. But there's no getting around it. The Captiva is made to a price, and that shows. Reinhold says the car is American, and that explains all of the plastic in here. So while it might look a lot better than its predecessor, it's still unmistakably American. Chevrolet hopes that heated seats up front can help make up for that. We're testing the 2.2-liter diesel with a 6-speed automatic gearbox. It's got 135 kilowatts under the hood and packs 400 Newton meters of torque. Reinhold Deisenhofer thinks the diesel and gas engines could be more torquey high up in the rev range. He thought that 135 kilowatts looked good on paper, but the automatic gearbox saps some of that power. The engine is intended for cruising around. When Reinhold puts his foot down, he says the engine gets louder, but the performance is lacking. If you drive sedately and don't get too ambitious on corners, Reinhold says, it's a great car. On the outside, the Captiva looks like it's capable of more than just cruising. It's been given an added injection of attitude, with a bullish and aggressive front end. The bumper guards front and rear, though, are mainly for show. In the back, there's a parking camera to help you get into tight spots. But the navigation system up front leaves a lot to be desired. Reinhold says that a sat-nav is optional, but he thinks it's strange that you have to specify the country every time you use it. If you want to visit your aunt just around the corner, you have to tell it what country you're in. He isn't too keen on that.
Tante die Ecke fahren will, muss man das Land neu eingeben und das ist vielleicht so ein bisschen übertrieben.
Our tester has put the Chevrolet Captiva through its paces. So what's his verdict? He likes the chassis. It's designed more for comfort, so the Captiva isn't a sports car. But then again, it isn't trying to be one. It's more of a crossover family SUV because it can carry 8 people. So Reinhold says not to expect too much from the engine. The Captiva is great just to cruise around in and enjoy the scenery. In Germany, prices for the Captiva begin at 25,700 euros. They're fast, rare, and boast huge wings, or spoilers, the Ford Sierra RS Cosworth and the Ford Escort RS Cosworth. 2 ordinary family cars that were transformed into lean, mean driving machines and gave purebred race cars a run for their money. The Escort Cosworth on the rally circuit, and the Sierra Cosworth on the racetrack. In the 1980s and 90s, they both drove their competitors into the ground using almost identical technology. Christian Gratl is lucky enough to own both of these rare Cossis. He and his colleague Uwe Schreiner keep them in tip-top condition. Christian says he's very attached to the Cosworths. You might say even grew up in them. His father used them a lot in mountain rallies. And Christian has also tinkered around a lot on the cars, so he's very passionate about them. The Sierra was the first Ford to boast the Cosworth name, and the high-performance version made its debut in 1986. Ford wanted to clean up on the racetrack, but to do that, the car maker had to develop a version that was street legal too, to fulfill the requirements for Group A racing. The series production model Cossi boasted a 204 horsepower, 16-valve engine with an intercooled turbocharger. Christian says the most striking thing about the Sierra Cosworth is its huge rear spoiler, which serves to increase downforce. At 200 kilometers an hour, the car exerts a downward thrust of 800 kilos, which he says greatly increases the vehicle's stability. When it comes to the interior, Christian points out the Sierra Cosworth Recaro bucket seats. Its 5-speed manual gearbox and 3-spoke steering wheel. He notes that the car has lots of dials, like the turbo indicator and the oil pressure gauge, which is vital for monitoring fluid levels. The tachometer goes up to 260 kilometers an hour, but Christian says the Ford can exceed that, which is why it was often dubbed a Porsche killer. Christian notes that a pop-off valve has been installed on his Sierra Cosworth, and that the strut bar isn't original either, and that here all the stainless steel pipes have been handmade and re-welded. He says the car can reach 300 kilometers an hour and is great fun to fly down the Autobahn in. At first, Christian has taken his souped-up 500 horsepower racer for a spin on some country roads. His Cossi is in great shape and worth some 30,000 euros. The whistling sound the car makes while changing gears is typical of the turbocharged Cosworth. He says it's the sound of the pop-off valve which releases excess turbo boost pressure when you take your foot off the gas. He says it sounds cool and protects the engine and hoses, because if this pressure were reintroduced into the system, the hoses wouldn't last as long. Christian's second Cosworth is an Escort. It's the car Ford brought out in 1993 with the aim of winning the World Rally Championships. Combining the body of the standard Escort with the chassis and engine from the bigger Sierra produced a small yet powerful and agile car that was perfect for mountain rallies. While the Escort's interior is quite unspectacular, under the hood lies the familiar turbocharged power plant from the Sierra Cosworth. The car's owner says this 220 horsepower Escort Cosworth was built in 1993. He feels the most eye-catching thing about it are the wings, which extend all the way down from here, over the side skirts to the rear wing. A huge rear spoiler is installed here, in combination with this one here. Christian says the Escort has even better aerodynamics than the Sierra Cosworth, so the car's handling is very neutral. Unlike Christian's tuned Sierra, the Escort Cosworth is an original series production version. It can go from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 6.1 seconds and reach a top speed of 225 kilometers an hour. Christian says the Escort is most fun to drive on mountain roads like this, with tight curves and quick stretches, because it's so neutral, sporty, and agile on curves. This is the place to drive it. Christian Gottel says the Escort Cosworth is suitable for everyday driving, but he adds that the car's not the youngest and feels it would be a shame just to use it for getting around.
Wohl zu schade ist, jeden Tag zu verwenden.
But for anyone looking for a sporty and reliable modern classic that's fun to drive and increasingly rare, Cossi is a good choice.